We're live.
Yeah. Okay.
How,
We're live now. Okay.
yeah. How are
Yeah.
you doing today?
Well, I'm doing just fine. I thank you for having me on your podcast and stuff. And it was nice meeting you the other night at the little barbecue restaurant. And you know, uh, we exchanged a few pleasantries and stuff. And I think we're like minded. In a lot of things. And so I'm happy to express my opinions to you on the topics that are abound.
All right, perfect. Thank you. And then I voted today.
Oh,
You
did you? Well, I voted on the first day of early voting and stuff, which I always do. I always, whenever there's early voting, I go the very first day available, and and get it done. I think it's a very civic thing. Everybody should do it. And I'll tell you, some of my conversations I've been having with a few people that are of the same like mindedness of me. They support President Trump, but then they're not even registered to vote. And
exactly. That
yeah,
is so
and
frustrating.
that really is frustrating for me because I'm thinking, okay, if you cannot support, I mean, if you support somebody, give them your vote, and if you don't support them, well, then sit out. But if you profess a um, willingness to support a candidate, then you should at the very least give him your vote.
Exactly.
You know, so now with regards to the unrest up in Philadelphia with this latest shooting of a African American man
Wait, time
that
out.
was.
Tell me your background first.
Oh, okay. Well, my background is a little over 25 years working with a major police department here in the Dallas Fort Worth area. Fort Worth Police Department, as a matter of fact. I retired as a sergeant in 2018, and I did the majority of my 25 years was as a uniformed officer on the street. So
Thank you for your
that,
service.
yeah, that's my background on that. And the last 8 years of my service was as a supervisor, sergeant, supervising patrol officers.
So how is that? How did that work?
Well, when you are a sergeant or a supervisor, you're not the tip of the spear most of the times. The tip of the spear being the officers that are the frontline officers answering the calls for service and going out to the calls when somebody is off their medicine and acting strangely that has people call the police. And then the officers that respond are generally not sergeants and supervisors. It's generally just regular frontline officers. That's why I call them the tip of the spear. And most of the times a sergeant would not even make a scene like that unless there's some sort of use of force involved. Then a sergeant has to make the scene.
So how was the training?
Well, we as far as our department goes, we trained extensively, and we had, yeah, extensively. I mean, we had a what they call a 40-hour school that we went to, that was state mandated. Basically, the state of Texas mandates that police departments go through that training, and that training basically it would re you would relearn everything you learned in the academy, and then uh, be taught any other updated training that needed to be put in there. And so that was done periodically, and we were constantly going back for update. We get new weapons. When we got the tasers, you'd have to go get retrained and everything on all that. And basically, when you first got the taser, you have to be tased so you know what it would be like. And
Did y'all have to get maced too?
yeah, that happened in the academy because we had mace right from the get go out of the academy. The tasers didn't come till many years later for me because I started in '93.
Okay.
So,
So
but with the mace, yeah, we got maced in the academy, and I could tell you, I would much rather be tased than I'd be maced. That mace will set your face on fire.
man.
And so
So
I would not want to be maced again. I'd be tased. You could tase me a million times, but don't spray that mace on me.
so are with you guys, you have to keep up with certifications as well. Are they like annually every
Yeah,
2 years?
actually, our certifications, as far as with our guns, we'd have to qualify every 6 months. The state
Mm.
only The state only requires you to qualify once a year, but the city of Fort Worth required us to certify every 6 months. And then the state only required a score of 75 to pass. Fort Worth required us to shoot 85 to pass.
Gotcha.
So the city of Fort Worth held us to higher standards than what the state of Texas did.
Fort Worth is a great city, so yeah. I mean, it makes sense. So, okay, so what's your opinion on what happened in Pennsylvania recently?
Well, in that, when you have somebody that is off his medicine and is acting strangely enough for his folks that are around him all the time and know him the best, for them to feel uncomfortable enough to call the police to come and help them with him, and then that person is walking around with a knife. Okay, an edged weapon can kill you just about as quick as a gun can, if it's used properly. I mean, you cut a jugular, you can bleed out in a matter of minutes. Okay, well, and if somebody is coming at you with a edged weapon, and I don't know what size knife this guy had. I couldn't make it out from the video I saw, but if he's got an edged weapon and he's 20 or 25 feet from you, it's been proven that distance can be bridged. If somebody takes off running at you, they can bridge that distance in less than 3 seconds. Okay, and if you've got your taser out, and that taser is not like a phaser off Star Trek where a beam of light hits somebody and they fall down. You've got 2 little prongs that come out on little filament wire that's got the consistency smaller than fishing line. If you've ever fished and used a fishing line, it's smaller than that.
Wow.
And those 2 prongs have to hit at an optimum space apart for them to get the optimum effect. Now, if somebody's wearing a coat or somebody's wearing a hoodie or other thick kind of clothing like they do when it gets cold,
like me.
Yeah, exactly. Well, see that if one of those prongs hits there and does not go deep enough, it doesn't get close enough to the skin, it's very likely you're not going to get a good connection. And if you don't get a good connection, you're not going to get a good solid charge that's going to knock. I can tell you that when we did our training, they clamped us in the optimum place on our back, on our back shoulder, upper left and lower right, and and the optimum amount of distance apart. They did that. I could not move. I mean, I was frozen, and some guys actually fall straight down to the ground. They can't even keep standing up. But and it's very, if you've ever grabbed a wire that's loose, and you get that little shock in your hand when you grab it, we'll multiply that by about 1,000, and that's what getting shocked by a taser's like.
Oh, yikes!
It's no picnic for sure.
I'll make sure I avoid every opportunity not to be tased.
Say that again.
I want to avoid ever getting tased.
Well, I would avoid getting maced too. So the secret word there is compliance. Just do what the officers say, and you're gonna live to see another day. As simple as that. And if you have a problem with the way the officer handles himself, well, you make that complaint afterwards. You don't make that complaint right then and there. You try to litigate it on the side of the road where the incident's occurring. You're going to lose that one every time, and usually it's not in a good way. So you do what the officer says, and if there's a problem with it, then you make a complaint later on.
Okay.
Simple as that, and this in this era of non-compliance by people, I lay that at the feet of our former president. Okay? President Obama, every time he had a chance to take a knock at the police, be it with the Boston professor that had a run in with the campus police, or the shooting of the guy up in up in St. Louis during that time. Every time he had a chance to talk down about the police, he took the ball and ran with it. He didn't mind calling the police stupid. He didn't mind calling the police overbearing or overstepping their authority. And when you have the most powerful man in the world, and I think, and I don't think there's much argument that the president of the United States is the most powerful man in the world. When you have the most powerful man in the world, basically undercutting your authority, which is what he did every time he got up there before all the facts were known and started talking about the police acting stupidly or overstepping their boundaries. When he did that, he basically cut the legs off police officers. Okay. And when you do that, you've got a large segment of society that the worst law they're going to break is speeding in their car down the freeway. That's the worst violation they're going to have. The other side of the coin of that, you've got a smaller segment of society that doesn't know anything but law breaking. They go to prison, they come back out of prison, they break the law again, they go back to prison. It's just a revolving door. That's all they know. And then there's a big group of people that's between those two groups of people that are real impressionable, that are going to be, they could break the law maybe, or they're going to stay straight because they think of their grandma or something, that they're sitting on the fence. But whenever you've got the most powerful man in the country cutting your authority out from underneath you, then you've got that large number of people that are in the middle that when they get pulled over by an officer, maybe they say, well, I don't recognize his authority because President Obama said they were stupid, or that they're overstepping their boundaries. So I'm not going to listen to what he says. So some of those people, I lay at his feet that if he hadn't basically disrespected the police and started talking them down and basically undercutting their authority, some of these people that have been not complying and basically ignoring officers' orders maybe would have listened to them and not if you listen to officers, you comply with officers' orders, then you're going to live to see another day. And then it's as simple as that. Listen to officers' orders and you live to see another day. If you run from officers, it's a chance you're not going to see another day.
Yeah. Someone has a question for you. Someone asked, so which is more effective, mace or taser?
I would say mace. I would say mace is more effective because you don't have to worry about all you got to do is get that spray on their face. You get a little bit of that stuff on their face, and they have adapted that mace over the years. When I first got it, it was more like a cloud that came out. Now it comes out more in a stream that's easier to direct, and you just go across the eyes. You go across the eyes one time, boom, and one and done. Now and then the stream is less affected by the wind too, because with the cloud, if you spray somebody and the wind happened to be blowing in your face, some of that stuff's going to fly back in your own face. So that's not a end all be all either. I mean, one thing I like all the years I spent in uniform on the street, I never had to use more than open hand control. I never had to mace anybody. I never had to hit anybody with my stick. I never had to tase anybody. I certainly never had to shoot anybody. Most of the time I was able to talk people into compliance.
Awesome. So since you support Trump, I'm quite sure you understand his law and order stance. So
well, I think President Trump has been very clear that he supports the police. He supports in no way defunding any police. He doesn't support that at all. Joe Biden, on the other hand, does. He says he doesn't support defunding the police, but he would consider redirecting some of their funds. Okay, well, what is that? That's the professional politician speak of saying the same thing in different words and then saying they didn't say it.
Right. So what would happen if a police department was defunded? Like what does that mean for the
Well,
community.
that means they get their budget shrunk, and then you don't have you can't to put through academy classes. Then if you got a where is the police department? If the police department's going to lose 10 million of their budget, okay, where do you get that 10 million from? Okay, you got to shrink your budgets. Okay, where does that come from? And there's a you might do away with an academy class, and then you're shorter of officers on the street. You don't have as many officers on the street because you got people that are going to be retiring every year, and if you don't have recruits coming out of the academy to replace those retire, then you're going to shrink your force. You shrink your force, and you won't have as many officers to answer calls. So if you get your purse stolen in downtown Fort Worth, and they've shrunk the budget, they've cut the budget, which Fort Worth has not done. They haven't done that yet or anything. But if they shrink the budget, and then you don't have enough, there's not enough officers to man all the beats, you might have to wait 4 hours before an officer comes out to get your take your purse snatching report.
Man, that sounds terrible, especially they're trying to take your weapon away so you can't protect yourself.
Yeah,
on top of that.
Exactly. And that's, Joe Biden has said that, he's going to work towards trying to take our weapons away. Now, I think he'd have a hard time doing that unless he ends up getting, get the Senate his way and everything. Even then, I still think, you're talking about changing an amendment in the Constitution, and I don't think he can do that. I don't think he will. They've been saying Democrats are going to try to take our guns forever, and they never have. So I don't think Joe Biden's got the wherewithal to do that.
Gotcha. I don't know. I feel like this time around, it's a little more, it's a little scarier, because I've been seeing people who are innocent trying to protect themselves get arrested.
Yeah, like the couple in St. Louis. St. Louis. Yeah. That's and I don't think that'll stand. I think some of those not politicians, but the prosecutors are kind of they're playing to the crowds, to try to appease them, so they go ahead and arrest them. But those charges aren't going to stand against those folks, I don't think.
Can they sue the city for that?
Well, yeah, they could, especially if they actually were arrested and stuff. I guess they were arrested, or and they had to go through that process, and they could sue them for false arrest. Sure, I think they could. And if I'm not mistaken, I think both those people are attorneys, so they're going to know the law. So.
And then what are you up to nowadays? Like, what do you do now?
Well, since I've retired, and I'm glad I'm retired, I managed to, I lived on 70% of my salary for most of my career, because I deferred most of mine and invested it. So I was able to retire. Some guys have to work until they're in their 30 or 33rd year or whatever. There was a Houston sergeant that got killed this last week. That was in his 41st year, 41 years. And I'm just thinking, there's no way I could do 41 years. I got it in 25 and a half years, and I was done, but I did that. I retired in August of 2018, and I've been traveling and playing golf mostly.
Good. You do a little bowling too, right?
Oh yeah. I got back into bowling once I retired too. I was trying to fill my calendar, because I have too many nights that don't have anything to do. So I got to fill the calendar with either golf, bowling, or gambling or traveling. So I like to play blackjack as well.
Are you any good?
Yeah, I employ a strategy to that. There's a strategic. You have to have strategic thinking, in no matter what you do. I used to review whenever there would be an incident, involving police somewhere in the country, and we have the next day or the day after that, you'd have all the facts come out and what happened and stuff. I would have what you'd call an after action review with my troops, with my officers at roll call. I would, say, hey, y'all know this incident that just happened over in Dallas or whatever. And I would say, okay, let's just say you rolled up on this scene. How would you handle it? and you review it. And I always told them, I want you to always think strategically,
Mm-hmm.
wherever you're pulling up, think strategically. How are you going to handle this? Which way you're going to go? Are you going to go left? You're going to go right? What are you going to, what are you going to do? What kind of cover are you going to employ? And because you have to think strategically in your life. You go sit into a restaurant somewhere. You never know whenever somebody's liable to come into that restaurant and start shooting. Where are you
Mm-hmm.
going to dive to? Where are you going to dive to? What are you going to dive behind? What's your cover going to be? You have to
Mm-hmm.
think about those kind of things all the time.
Exactly.
You know.
And so if anybody is listening that's considering joining, hold on one second.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so if anybody wants to consider joining a police force, what would be your advice to them?
Well, the joining the police force is still, it's ever more it's more challenging now than it ever has been. Uh, you've got you've got the the upper crust, or not the upper crust, that's not the right word, but the leadership of the police departments want to control officers kind of like puppets. They want to be to limit the liability. They want and they want officers to they want them to be they want them to always use as least amount of force as possible. And that's what an officer's goal should be, to get something accomplished using the least amount of force possible. But you've got to do it safely, because every officer is human too. We're not robots. And
Mm-hmm.
and we want to go home every night. We want to go home to our families and children and whatever. And so you've got to you just have to approach each situation on its own merits, and try to do the best you can. And but as far as somebody wanting to try to get in there, it's most departments, if you get into a bigger department, they're going to have their own academy that you go through. If you're going to try to get on, you can take criminal justice classes out at the colleges around here, and then kind of put yourself through. There's several private academies that you basically fund yourself going through that police academy. Then you can hire on at any of the smaller departments that don't have their own academy, and hire officers in that manner.
Okay.
So but I would anybody that's interested in doing that, I would encourage them to be going and doing a 1.5-mile run every night, and timing themselves and seeing what kind of pace they can keep in a 1.5-mile run.
Mm-hmm.
Doing sit-ups and push-ups, all of those things you have to do, at least in Fort Worth's academy, to get through the very initial stage of it. So, and it was a very almost like the military type.
That's what it was sounding like.
The academy, because we got up every morning, was there in the gym every morning, and went out and ran along the Trinity River on the trails in Fort Worth. And
Trinity River, I love that place.
We started off at 1.5 miles, and we built up to where we were running 3 miles a day. Eventually, we'd run the 3 miles, go back into the gym and do sit-ups and push-ups and what have you, and then we'd go in and shower, and then we go in and spend the rest of the day in the books.
Awesome.
And by the time I got out of there, I was 33 years old when I went through the police academy. So I was about 10 years older than most of the people that was in the academy class.
Did you say 33?
I was 33. Yeah, I was 33 when I went through the academy. And by the
You're
time
my age.
Do what now?
You're my age.
Okay. Well, that was in 1993. but and when I got out of the police academy, I was in the best shape I had ever been. And I had been through some school athletics and stuff like that, but I was far and away in better shape at the end of that police academy than I ever was in my entire life.
Oh, that's great. So if you could leave a message with everyone who's listening right now or going to watch later, what would it be before we end the live?
Well, I would say if you haven't voted, do it. Do it. You get out. Don't let the opportunity pass you by, because that's your choice. That's your chance to have a say. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, I voted. I have voted in every single election there is since 1980. I mean, and I take that challenge, or take that um, duty as a sacred duty to do. You know,
Exactly.
because just look at the other countries where you can't vote who your leaders are going to be. You know, and and then there was a like, there's talk of the how much time we got.
Oh no, keep going. You're good.
Okay, well, there's been talk. The Democrats have talked about wanting to get rid of the Electoral College.
Oh yeah, they have.
Okay, yeah, that's a big thing. They're talking about getting rid of that Electoral College. Okay, well, I'll give you an argument for the Electoral College, because all of the states are independent. It's the United States of America. Each of those have their own entity. Okay, and the Electoral College is made where the New York and California have large groups of people that live in close all in those areas, whereas Montana, Wyoming, that people are scattered out. There's not near as many people. Okay, so if it'd be like if you had a united world of countries, okay, and you had China that has 1.9 billion people, or in India they have more people than us in the United States, and since they have more people, they're going to get to say what goes on.
Right.
That's the beauty of the Electoral College.
Mm-hmm.
It gives everybody a say.
Right, because we don't need New York or California making decisions for the whole country.
No, exactly, and that's getting rid of the Electoral College. That's what we would be doing. So
And they only want that because they keep losing it and they keep winning the popular vote. So they all they care about is power.
yeah.
This isn't doing anything to help the American people. This has been in place since forever.
Well, that should show you just how wise the founding fathers were.
Mm-hmm.
How they came up with that, and granted, now there's a lot about our history that is unsettling, but you can't erase that history, because if you
Exactly.
erase that history, you're liable to make the same mistakes that were made in history if you don't learn from them.
Exactly.
So there we go.
You're absolutely right about that, because there's a lot of things. Honestly, I feel like a lot of times, a lot of the government teachers or history teachers were football coaches or people who just didn't really take that stuff seriously. And people don't really understand history, or they've been taught history incorrectly. And so, you heard the whole Southern strategy, right? Where they're trying to say that it's switch when there was never a switch.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And it's like for me, if you look at history and you correlate things that are going on today, Democrats haven't changed. They're the same they've been. They have to just change their strategy a bit.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Abraham Lincoln was a Republican.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Abraham Lincoln is the one who died because of the Civil War. He died because of the Civil War, and the Civil War was fought to free slaves. And it was
Democrats killed him.
And the Democrats were trying to do. The Democrats are the ones that created that ended up found in the Ku Klux Klan.
Mm-hmm.
It was Democrats that did that. And I don't know. I guess it was probably Lyndon Johnson's Great Society that kind of embraced the black community and basically brought them in, and basically have been taking advantage of them since, because that Great Society basically made them dependent on the federal government.
Right.
And it's been that way ever since. And it's generational. It just perpetuates itself. And President Trump has come out with this platinum plan, basically that's interjecting a ton of money into black communities, into black businesses, and trying to expand that. but that didn't get played up in the media at all. That doesn't
Absolutely not.
No.
They are calling this man racist
Yeah.
on a regular basis. And honestly, back in 2016, when I was hearing that, I was like, well, he didn't say that he was going to only lower taxes for white people. So I'm still going to support him.
I know. And if you're black and you outwardly support Trump, you get called to the carpet a lot more than I would.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, without a doubt. And if Joe Biden ends up getting in there, and I firmly believe the Democrats have plans to get him out within 6 months. They'll get him out saying he's mentally not fit for office, or either he'll say he has mental issue or medical issues he's got to attend to, so he needs to get out, and then they'll move Kamala Harris in there.
Right.
And God help us then.
Did you know they're both descendants of slave owners?
Oh, well, no, I did not know that, but I mean, it doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, both of them. Yeah. Crazy.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me, but you won't get any of that played up by the media. The media is so in the tank, basically. They had a chance to ask Joe Biden something the other day. Ask him a question, and all they could ask him was what flavor ice cream he got when he come out of the store. Eating ice cream. What flavor ice cream did you get? I'm thinking, okay, what is this?
So I have one question I can answer left in the box, you guys. It says, who will Harris appoint as her VP?
Gosh, who would that be? I don't know. I'm really not sure. I think she probably would go. I have really not. It'd be a ballpark guess. I mean, I probably somebody with the maybe even Bernie Sanders. It's possible. But it wouldn't be anybody. It certainly wouldn't be anybody that would be a center right guy. A moderate Democrat. I don't even know if you got any moderate Democrats anymore.
Yeah, I don't know. I honestly, I didn't really think about that. Maybe Michelle.
Yeah, and now that would be something. I just don't know whether or not she'd want to. I mean, they've got more money than they know what to do with now. They bought a big, $40 million estate out there on Long Island, and
yeah, because global warming's real. Like they
don't need the aggravation or I don't know. I don't see that happening.
Someone says maybe AOC. That was actually the first person I was thinking, but I don't believe she's old enough. She's not old enough.
I don't think she is either. I think they have to be 35.
Right. I think she's only like 30.
I don't even think she's 30 yet. I think she's in her late 20s.
Okay. And then someone says, I can see why many Black people, poor whites too, are angry because they have been under socialism for 50 plus years while watching capitalism succeed around them. That's a good point. Yeah. That's a really good point.
That's that you could argue that Lyndon Johnson's Great Society that he imposed on the poor and stuff, basically, you could argue that that's a form of socialism. Because you depend on the government for everything. The more kids you had, the more money you'd get. So that was that kind of system with those rules in place. That was and it's just. I came from a broken family. We had welfare and stuff. My mom got put on welfare. It was just four kids and her, and so I'm familiar with that kind of thing. I mean, I grew up with that, but I didn't want it, I think most people want to do for themselves. They want to succeed and they want to make more money. They want to, improve their life situation. They don't want to just stay down. They want to rise up. And I think President Trump has a better plan for that to happen, because before this COVID thing hit, and that was sent from China. That was a China. They call it a China virus. Well, that's where it started at, and that they let it escape. They let it escape. There's no doubt about that. They're either through incompetency or through vicious purpose. You know, they let that virus escape onto the world. Okay. Well, and before that, President Trump is the most business friendly president we've had since Ronald Reagan. Okay. And he had his business policies and his rollback of restrictions that had been on there previously. It let the economy just explode. Okay. And there were more jobs than there were people to work them. There was the unemployment rate for African Americans was the lowest it had ever been. Same for the
Asian Americans, Mexican Americans.
It was the lowest. If you wanted a job, you could work. Simple as that. There was no, and I was still working at that time, so I was driving all around North Fort Worth. Every corner I drove around, there was now hiring signs. Hiring signs everywhere, and people needed people to work, and there just wasn't enough people to work. That basically begs the argument for getting immigration reform, because if you got jobs but you don't have enough people working, you got to bring those people from outside to work them. So you've got to have immigration reform to where you can have the qualified people. You know, businesses should be able to have a program that they can log on to. Hey, look, I need these pipe fitters. Okay, well, I can't hire anybody around here from pipe fitters because all the people are working. So get on the immigration website and put in a request for pipe fitters, and then they get the immigration thing. They match up the people that have those talents, and then they send them that way, you know, and they got work visas. That's the kind of immigration reform we need.
Okay. Well, I really appreciate having you on today. Gotta get you back on again. We had to have dinner or lunch sometime. It was nice meeting you.
It was nice meeting you too, and thank you for having me on your program.
No problem. And someone asked me, like, what's that dot on my cheek? It's kind of hard. My lighting is off now, but it's my I voted sticker.
Oh,
so.
Your I voted out there. I had one too.
All right. Well, thank you for being on. I really appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay, Donnie, you take care of yourself now.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.